Press the bell icon on the YouTube app to never miss a video from News Laundry.
Hello and welcome to one more edition of News Laundry interviews. And I have a very special guest with me today. And to introduce that guest, I am just going to read her Twitter bio because it's damn amusing. Our guest has introduced the vibrator to the Indian silver screen and gave employment for years to come to countless trolls and other vermin. Also an actor, just throwing it in there, more than Bollywood. So, hello, Swara Bhaskar. Hello.
Oh no! I should have known that this would happen to me someday.
Of course.
And
Oh,
I should
it
have
hasn't
told
happened
person to
before.
do it.
Yeah. Oh, it hasn't happened before. I have the privilege of doing this first.
Yeah, no one has read my Twitter bio out as my introduction. And this is actually a new bio. People have read the old one. This is the new one. I put this up 2-3 days ago.
Oh, amazing. So Swara has grown up in Delhi, right? Where she did her schooling from Sardar Patel Vidyalaya and subsequently studied English literature at Delhi University's Miranda House. You're from Miranda. I didn't know that. That's a lot of fun people come from Miranda House.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a cool place.
It's a very cool place. And she has done a master's degree from the university that everybody loves, Jawaharlal Nehru University, which explains a lot of things. And, she started acting in films when you were associated with a theatre group called Act One,
Yeah,
right? In
and
Delhi.
IPTA
And
and IPTA in JNU, the Indian.
okay.
Theatre Association.
And of course, she's done multiple films like Tanu Weds Manu, Ranjana, Prem Ratan Dhan Payo, Nil Batte Sannata, and more recently, she has a web series called Ras Bhari on Amazon Prime, right? But the reason why I sometimes describe myself as an OG Swara Bhaskar fan, I will just show you why. It's because of this wonderful little thing. Okay?
Oh, yeah!
Yes.
My God, you have that. I don't have that.
Oh, I am a privileged individual. I got this straight from Parliament, okay?
What the hell?
Look at this amazing DVD
Did you
box
steal
set.
it? I don't have this.
I'm not going to reveal how I got it. It was it was an operation that was, required much effort. But guys, this is Samvidhan, okay?
Yeah.
Swara Bhaskar hosted this wonderful series which was aired on Rajya Sabha TV, directed by Shyam Benegal. And it is a dramatized version of how our constitution was made. And I have to tell you this. So this was aired in 2014, right? So I got
Yeah.
a DTH connection just for this. And this used to be my Ramayan. Okay, so I used to on every Sunday, 12 baje, I would be waiting and then I would watch it.
Actually, it's amazing because when I found out, I was like, wait, you dramatized the Constituent Assembly debates like the
Right.
world's most boring thing, like something you can use as a torture instrument to kill people and extract state secrets. Like they've dramatized that, and I think it shows the caliber of that team of Shyam Benegal sir, Atul Tiwari ji, and Shama Zaidi. I mean, these are also, of course, Atul ji and Shama ma'am are amongst the most stalwart of our writers
Right.
in the industry. And I mean, it was just, when I watched it, I was like, wow, I'm actually interested.
Yeah.
ये classes मैं civics में bunk करती थी school में, लेकिन अभी मैं इसको बैठ के देख रही हूँ.
Yeah. Also because you were hosting it, so
Listen, but it was bizarre because I used to be, and Shyam sir is very particular about teleprompter. He didn't want the use of a teleprompter.
Oh,
So
okay.
I have ratified all those lines in
Oh.
Hindi. And
Oh.
I was just speaking. My dog is getting very excited by this pitch, by this tone. What happened? What happened? So I used to start speaking at 7 in the morning or 8 in the morning, and I used to just be talking till 7 in the evening.
Wow.
When I used to come home, I used to be like, don't talk to me, anybody.
But that was an amazing series, right? And I wanted to actually ask you, so you are now very famous for, of course, I do consider you as an activist of sorts as well. apart from being an actor. Do you define yourself as an activist or do you not?
I don't, yeah, actually, because I don't think that I've done. I mean, in my previous bio, I'd called myself an armchair activist.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that I do enough work on the ground to deserve being called an activist. I think that I know a lot of activists. I've seen them at work, and I think that they work very hard. They're very relentless. I am basically a bit of a. I mean, I'm a well-intentioned. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a well-intentioned sort of ally is how I would describe myself to a lot of people's causes. And of course, there are certain causes for which I think I have actually gone on the ground, whether it was like the CANRC protests that happened. And I think that was the first time I'd actually gotten on the ground in that sense. But I do have very close connections with activism because of my background and also because when I was in college, like throughout college and I mean BA and MA both, I was working and interning with a lot of NGOs. So actually at that time I was something of an activist in training, but then I abandoned that and then decided to become a celebrity in training. But I see myself as an actor primarily, a performer, an occasional commentator because sometimes I write articles, and basically, yeah, a Twitter warrior, I guess.
Yeah, but you also did campaigning in 2019, right? Like, for Kanhaiya Kumar, if I
campaigned for Kanhaiya, for Amra. So I campaigned for 6 people from 4 different political parties. So Kanhaiya from CPI, Amra Ramji from CPM, Digvijay Singh ji for the Congress, which was actually, I was campaigning basically against Pragya Thakur. And clearly, I was not very successful. And then for 3 people in the Aam Aadmi Party, for Atishi, Raghav Chadda, and Dilip Pandeyji for the Aam Aadmi Party. So it was like this mishmash of basically just an opposition platform.
And who won?
Modi.
Hashtag aayega to Modi. Like,
Hashtag
never forget. Hashtag never forget. No, but what was the experience like and what were your learnings from this?
It was amazing. Actually, I have to say that, I mean, of course, I got trolled a lot. And of course, when the election results came out, everyone was so happy. And they named me also something, National Panoti or something, or Junior Panoti or something. Something like that they called me. But I actually really enjoyed myself because I have so far only seen elections in the act of going and voting, which is very like here in... and my voting isn't actually in Delhi. So it is very civilized and like boring. So I think it was actually Kanhaiya's campaign that gave me a real sense of the vibrancy of Indian democracy because it was so amazing. And of course, his campaign was also full of music and sort of cultural sort of programs and very high decibel, very energetic, a lot of young people, a lot of idealism, enthusiasm, and so on. So it was actually wonderful to experience it. It was the first time ever that I was giving speeches in public in Hindi to like thousands of people. And so for Kanhaiya's rally and for Amra Ramji's rally, which was again a most humbling experience. Like Meghnad, Amra Ramji's rally, so it was in Sikar, right? So he was the candidate from Sikar and he is actually a tremendous man. I didn't know when they called me to ask if I will campaign for him. I first said, okay, wait, let me do some research and find out who's this person. And then I realized that I'd been reading in the press about this, the Rajasthan Bandh that the farmers had done to protest the water situation. In, I think 2017. And he had basically shut down all the 14 districts in Rajasthan to basically ensure that the farmers' loans up to 50,000 were waived off, and there was some water crisis, I think, that he was involved in. And I just discovered this man, and I was like, you know, how amazing is this person? He's an activist. From the time he left college, he's basically just been fighting for the cause of the farmers in Rajasthan. And when I went for his thing, they would announce on they were doing chanda because it's CPM, so they didn't have like any big backing and so on. And they would announce ki aur bahut aabhar Chaudhary, whatever, not even Chaudhary, whatever, some so and so Singh ji hamare beech mein aur unki taraf se 500 rupees ka chanda. And these old farmers, like old men with their pagdis and the dhoti and kurta would come to the stage and they'd give 500 rupees. Like someone gave 200, someone gave 300. And it just made me feel, my God, this is actually what democracy should be about. That
Right.
people should actually contribute towards the fight for their local causes, you know,
Right.
and not this kind of electoral bonds where we don't know who the hell is funding whom, and like, you know, what is the money, where is it coming, where is it going. So yeah, that was a very humbling and beautiful experience. And of course, the energy of an Indian election, it's like a mela.
Of course, of course. And like, of course, like, I mean, I have also been a part of multiple rallies now, so it's damn fun. Like, I mean, it's just, also it blows your mind a little bit. And since you did you, while you were doing Samvidhan, did they give you a parliament tour? I mean, I'm sure they must have. You were shot on set. I mean,
so we didn't go. We didn't actually go inside. We only went up inside the hall, the central hall of the parliament.
Right.
So we didn't go into where, because the it was shut. Like it was not in session.
Intercession.
So we spent a lot of time in the corridors of the parliament and in the gardens of the parliament building, and we only went and saw the actual one of the copies of the constitution.
Oh yeah, in the library. Yes.
Yeah, once, and that's it.
But did you ever see a session by any chance? Have you seen a session?
No. I've never seen a session.
So it's wonderful, you know. Once you are in parliament, you know, you realize that there are so many languages coming at you from all directions, from people talking about random things, you know, like conspiracies or whatever. And then there are like farmers, there are businessmen, there are all sorts of professions. It's just such a wonderful thing. And then when you go for an election, it's just like a microcosm of that, right? You know, like where it's like you're dropped into this world where you had no idea what was going on. Like, for instance, in Rajasthan, as you described, it's such a wonderful experience. And then you went to Bihar as well, right? So the diversity just becomes very apparent, right?
And you know, you just realize that India, I mean, the numbers are just so staggering.
Yeah.
It just you know, you get a sense of how large this country is.
Right.
Like it's quite something. It's just, it's insane.
Swarya Bhaskar, are you on TikTok? Where you on TikTok? I'm sorry.
I'm not on TikTok, and up to TikTok band bhi ho gaya hai.
हाँ, बंद भी हो गया. But you never tried to be on TikTok?
You know, I considered being on it, but then I was just like, यार कौन रोज नया content बनाएगा?
That's also true.
मैं अगर TikTok पे चली गई तो मेरे trolls, Twitter के trolls पे से कौन लड़ेगा?
Right. But were you a lurker by any chance? Like, did you download the app and were you like checking out the videos or anything of that sort?
No, yeah, I'm a bit of a tech jahil. So मुझे मेरे को तो काफी टाइम ये समझने में लग गया था कि Instagram story और IGTV में फर्क क्या है. So
okay.
Yeah. So I'm very basic. So I'm only on Facebook, which is now just a legacy relationship. It's like an abusive relationship that is just now continuing for the inertia of it.
Yeah.
Then I'm on Twitter and I'm on Instagram. I'm not on Snapchat. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on any of the other apps. But I used to always watch my cook and my houseboy is on TikTok, and he keeps showing me from his account.
Right.
Things, and every time I come on TikTok or somebody's put me on TikTok, he comes and shows me.
Oh, very nice. But then, so what are they saying? Like, once it got banned, did you talk to them?
They are right now actually. I have not spoken to them because these days, for the last 2 days, I have only been doing interviews. So I should actually check with how they feel. But he was a lurker. He was like, "नहीं मैं डालता नहीं हूँ, मैं खाली देखता हूँ."
Even I was a lurker. I mean, I used to like.
But it's amazing. I mean, I actually think that TikTok is amongst all the platforms, it's the most interesting.
It is. I mean, the amount of bizarre content that I have seen on TikTok, and it's such a, like, it makes you feel so privileged also in such a way, right?
The best TikTok related controversy was when it was hilarious. It was this Pakistani user had written, and I don't want to repeat the language that he'd used, but it was funny. He said कि ये साले इंडियन हमारा पानी लेकर ये dash कर रहे हैं, and it's that song of this guy who's like throwing water on himself and like dancing like this, and like I love the fact that he actually went back to the Indus Treaty, water treaty and whatever, and he was like, यहाँ जा रहा है हमारा पानी, ये waste हो रहा है हमारा पानी. So I found that damn funny. I was like, wow.
It's like next level creativity, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm also like, I wanted to ask you. So, I mean, since March, theaters have been closed, right? And you just released a web series, Rasbhari. I just saw this news that Disney Hotstar is like lining up a lot of big budget movies to be released on their platforms. I think this month, right? Um, do you what I wanted to understand? Um, what is the difference between releasing a movie on an OTT platform versus releasing it in the theater? And how much losses will this cause? Or will this be actually...
Well, so the thing is that there is a lot of different people who are involved in the process of. It's actually really funny. In a film, you only see the actors and the people on screen and the directors and a couple of the elite technical crew, and you think that that's the team. But actually, films have like 3 stages in which where different sets of people work. So one is the pre-production, which is the kind of setting up the scripting, the scheduling, the location hunting, recce, all of that stuff. The pre that happens, casting, everything that goes on, making the music, making the BGM, everything that goes on before you actually get on shoot. Then there's the actual process of shoot, which includes whatever rehearsals, readings, and then the actual shooting of it. The actors are actually only part of this much.
Right.
And then there is a whole post, which is the editing of the film and the color correction, the DI, the grading, the everything, VFX, whatever is needed. Once the film is ready, you actually have a marketing team that comes in and then is looking at how to market it. And then you have a business side to it, which is basically looking at how this film is going to be released, talking to whether if it's a studio, then talking to the exhibitors directly. If it's an independent film, then finding a distributor who will talk to the exhibitors. So exhibitors means the local theaters, the actual single individual theater owners, all the chains and so on. So actually there's a lot of levels and a lot of people involved in this business before it hits the screen, right? Now, the decision to sell directly to OTT is going to damage basically the
third phase.
The exhibitors, the exhibitors and independent distributors the most. Because what's happening is that the studios who are the producers and the distributors, whether it's a Dharma or a Yash Raj or a Fox or whatever, they are going to get their monies from the OTT.
Right.
So everyone before is not affected as much as it is the last 2 people, the exhibitors and the independent distributors.
Right.
Who are not the producers. So they are the ones that are up in arms actually, and because they are the ones that are most affected by this.
But then the ticketing, so for instance, the ticketing, sorry, I'm just going a little deeper in this. The ticketing part of this, so like obviously there's like a box office collection, right, of a movie, etc., and a part of it does come to the producers and whoever made the so that will be affected, or will it then now like a lump sum amount is going to these producers, etc., and then OTT will be like hum ye ab show kar rahe hain.
So there's no ticketing now. There's no box office, right? Because now basically the producer is going to strike I guess, I mean, I'm not privy to a lot of these. Actors actually often know the least about all of this. But from what I've heard from friends, I can tell you that I'm not privy to the exact content of the contract. So I don't know what are the terms of the contract. But I would imagine that the producer is basically either selling or leasing for a certain number of years the film to the OTT platform, and therefore giving all rights, universal rights for that period. Which basically means that it's not going to play in a theater, it's only going to be available on the OTT.
But then do you think that sort of democratizes the entire thing? So for instance, you have worked in like big movies like Prem Ratan Dhan Payo. You've also done like indie movies. I mean, I think I still consider Tanu Wedge Manu as an indie movie, just that it became big. I think that is. Wait, you made a face. Explain that face.
I don't think that Anand sir would be very happy to have Tanu Wedge Manu described as an indie film, but okay.
No, I mean just the way.
But you're right. Like actually, the one Tanu Wedge Manu one, when it came out, it was quite unusual. People had not, you're right. They're not seeing that kind of stuff.
But like, so do you think it like now democratizes the whole ecosystem? Like, because then Akshay Kumar is releasing a movie on Disney Hotstar, whereas you will also release a movie on Disney Hotstar versus anybody else. So this outsider-insider problem or this big star, small star problem, do you think it gets solved now because of OTT?
It's an interesting question, actually. I mean, I think that definitely what the OTT platform has done is that it has given us a new set of talent. So, for example, Patal Lok and Jaideep Ahlawat, the discovery, or I should say rediscovery of Jaideep Ahlawat. Jaideep, I mean, I remember Jaideep, of course I know Jaideep, but other than that, I remember Jaideep's performance in Gangs of Wasseypur is absolutely stunning performance.
Yes.
And then we kind of didn't quite, I don't think he got the kind of opportunities that his talent deserves. And now with Patal Lok, finally, after almost 10 years, or maybe not 10 years, but like, yeah, actually 10 years, or 8, 9 years, whatever, he has this.
He has a following now, like a proper following.
No, a following, but also finally he has that recognition for the kind of talent that he has actually had that access to an audience.
Yeah.
So I think that in that sense, and there's so many other such people. I mean, Divyendu, the boy from Mirzapur, is another good example of, you know, he's been doing films and so on, but I think the kind of reach that Mirzapur gave him, Pankaj Tripathi, the best example perhaps amongst all of us, for the fact that OTT was able to give him the stardom that his talent deserves.
True.
And give him roles that his talent deserves. But I think that I would say that we should wait and let it play out, because personally, if you ask me, I think that the only way to break and to make more equal this whole star system, nepotism, insider, outsider, is to diversify stardom. Is to actually have more stars, which is why TikTok is great, which is why YouTube is great, because suddenly now you have all these various content creators, people that we've never seen, don't know who the hell they are. They seem very regular people, but they have these like massive fan followings. Like, I mean, I didn't know half of these people who they were. And you know, there was a recent scandal between TikTok and YouTube, YouTubers and TikTokers, and I was like, I don't even know who any of these people are.
Right.
But they're there and they have these star fan followings, and it's great, right?
Yeah.
So I think that that's the only way. But equally, I would like to say that, you know, we are basically a feudal people. We are a people who love to worship. So I would wait to see how that pans out, because apparently there was a press conference for. I saw some post by Vidyut Jamwal and Kunal Khemu that talked about how there was some press conference and all the big films were represented and their two films were not represented. So I'm like, bro, so what now? The star system has creeped into OTT also.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that is then so which is what I'm saying, that, you know,
it's
power,
a cultural phenomenon, more or less.
It's also power, you know, like, I mean, like, you know how Foucault says that power exists everywhere.
Yes.
And power is like, it will find a way.
Yeah.
So it's also, and the other thing I would like to point out is that, frankly, you know, just because you're an outsider, and this is a slightly tangential point, but I'd like to make it.
Yeah.
Just because you're an outsider doesn't mean that when you become a star, you'll be democratic.
Right.
There's a lot of equally starry, tantrumy, badly behaved outsiders who've become stars. And they're just repeating the same kind of pattern, the same kind of entitlement, the same kind of privileged assholery that you see in you know, the so-called typical bratty star.
Right,
so that's what I'm saying, that I just feel like this whole debate has been framed on very false equivalences, you know?
But it's like what you said, right? Like, so when you talk about outsiders, if you go like decades ago, like Amitabh Bachchan was an outsider. Shah Rukh Khan was an outsider. Like, everybody was an outsider. They just came in and perpetuated the same system which like Raj Kapoor was like criticized for and stuff like
the
that.
thing is that which is why I think that it's I actually personally believe that there's no point targeting individuals, because the thing is, you have to understand the structure of the industry and why this happened. Okay?
Absolutely.
As you correctly pointed out, Dilip, forget Amitabh Bachchan, Dilip Kumar was an outsider. Devanand was an outsider.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Amitabh Bachchan, Shah Rukh Khan, Deepika Padukone, Priyanka Chopra, Irfan Khan. I mean, I'm saying that from when Sunil Dutt Saab was an outsider. So the thing is that I think that it's important to understand why the industry has very entrenched relationships and relationship-driven business. And one of the reasons for that, I feel, the two that I understand, the first is very structural. It is that the industry did not have the status of an official status of an industry till almost, I think, 2000. I mean, you have to
Okay.
check this. But I think that films qualified to get bank loans as late as 2000, which means
Oh, okay.
that from 1913 to,
Hmm.
to 1999, films were being made by individual producers, either mortgaging their houses, girvi rakhna ghar ko, or raising personal loans, wife ki jewelry rakhna. And you know, now it sounds like bizarre, but these are true stories. Raj Kapoor ka
Right.
ghar almost bik gaya tha after Mera Naam Joker. You know, that because he had basically staked all his personal assets to make that film. And which is why you have all these stories of the
Right.
biggest of stars dying in penury
Right.
when they
right,
turned
right.
producers.
Right.
Because and that is also how the underworld came into the film industry, because it began to provide finance,
Financiers.
which
Yeah,
the banks were not
financiers.
doing.
Right.
Yeah. So when you have a structure like this, obviously, if you've made a film and your house is bloody on girvi,
Hmm.
then when you become successful, you're going to think of what is the best way to safeguard your assets and
Right.
keep everything in the family. And that's how you're pushing your son and daughter into it. And of
Hmm.
course, I mean, there is a glamour world and so on.
No, not just in the film industry, but I think, I think the second point which I would like to add, you might correct me, is also like the cultural phenomenon of just in business, in politics, in film, everywhere you see there are dynasties building up, even in judiciary, right? It's like everywhere you see there are obviously parents who are trying to push their kids forward and make them take over their businesses. It just happens that way. So it's a very not just an Indian thing. It's a very human thing also, to be honest. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, I mean, as you said correctly, that exists in every business. So there's a certain natural this thing to it. And the other thing is that, so one is the structural thing. And the other thing actually is what I said, that, we are, as an audience, we have a propensity to worship. We want heroes to worship. We want,
Right.
it's a need in us to find people to worship, whether it's a Sachin Tendulkar, whether it's a Saurabh Ganguly, whether it's a Shah Rukh Khan, whether it's a Rajnikant, whether it's a Modi. We have a need to have this kind of uncritical worshipping of people that we consider heroes.
Yeah.
And that's how the star system developed.
Right.
And then the whole financing around, I mean, the whole economic structure became around stars, because the film started selling on, or it was projected that the films were basically becoming hits on the basis of stardom. So you have Salman sir, who brings a guarantee of a certain 40 crore opening weekend.
Right.
And then the whole production of the film becomes, according to the first 3 days, you just have to make your whole money. You have to be able to guarantee that opening, that this thing. So then that whole then everything is about that. How much is your stardom? What is your opening weekend? That's the price you command. That's the, and these are conversations I've actually had with actresses also, who've actually said that, yeah, sure, equal wages, but are we guaranteeing the weekends that Salman guarantees?
That's a very interesting point.
It's not a logic that I would agree with, but
Yeah.
I'm saying the point is that it's an interesting point, because it kind of shows you how the economy of filmmaking and
Exactly.
and film distribution is structured.
So it's the business of films that you're talking about, not like, so I mean,
That determines everything.
Yeah, absolutely, and equal wages and everything, of course. But do you think any sort of changes coming in the film industry on this point, especially where, say for instance, Kareena Kapoor leads in a movie? Do you think she's also like now attracting the equal amount of crowds that, or do you see them attracting the equal amount of crowds that, like, say, Salman Khan would attract? Why do you think that happens?
No, yeah, there's a huge gap. Huge gap. I mean, Veer Wedding is the highest opening female-led film in the history of Hindi cinema, and the opening was 10.8 or 11 crores on the first day, on Friday, in India box office.
And that's the highest.
That's the highest. Compare that to the 23 crores that Agnipath opened on, or the whatever number of crores that Salman sir's film opens on. I think Prem Ratan Dhan Pai opened on 36 crores on the first day, if I'm not mistaken. So just look at the difference. And I think that the simple reason for that is, I'm really sorry to say this, is just the fact that we're basically a patriarchal sexist society. And by the way, this is not just India. Hollywood has this problem too,
Yeah.
which is why Wonder Woman became this big thing, right? That, oh my God, like finally you had a film that was breaking the box office in Hollywood in matching the way in which male starring films did. So I think that this is actually a very interesting worldwide kind of a conversation, you know. And again, as I said, always audiences have to also factor themselves in, their own consumption patterns in to all of these debates.
Right.
I've said this in every interview, and I think it bears repetition.
Hmm.
If you have so much love and concern for outsiders, watch our films in theaters.
Yeah.
Okay, it's great that you're raging on Twitter and all that is lovely, but just look at the box office collections of Rajkumar Rao's Trapped, Irfan Sir's Karwan, Nawaz's Motichur Ka Laddu, My Anarkali of Ara, Richa Chadda's Article 375 or whatever that was, and etc. films. Sushant Sonchigya, and look at the box office collection of Dhada, of Heropanti, of Student of the Year 1 and 2, and 2 didn't even work.
Yeah.
Compare that.
Yeah.
And tell me who is interested in watching Star Kids. It's not us.
Right.
So I think that it's very important to have, which is why I'm saying that this kind of individual name calling is not a helpful conversation at all. The way to actually talk about this is actually to go deeper and to look at structural issues.
But then, like, you know, I was also thinking about, like, I think there are certain outliers to this. Let's say not a theory, but it's practical. Of course, what you're saying is practical. But there are like Ayushmann Khurrana type movies, right? You know, like, which are very tier 2 cities. Again, he's an outsider. I mean, he was a reality show star and then he became a movie star. I always like sort of think about how he has sort of built himself up. He has a very different audience, right? What do you think? Like, is he an outlier there where he has been able to capture a niche sort of audience which nobody had earlier touched upon?
I think that the case with Sushant is very interesting because actually Sushant sorry, not Sushant, Ayushmann. But also Sushant, because I think that the both of them show, but Ayushmann more consistently because he's had a successful 7-film run, I think. I think that shows the changing structural patterns of our industry, because Ayushmann is an outsider who has managed to consistently have audience support. That's the only way in which he's become a star. And marry with that the fact that the kind of scripts he's chosen are also new age scripts so Ayushmann's films are not the typical hero-centric films.
Right.
Ayushmann's films are actually content-centric films where he stars. So he gets the credit for being the star.
Yeah.
But actually the film is also working because of the scripts and because of many other reasons. So it's a very nice balance for him, of course. But I think it also tells us something very interesting about how our industry is changing. You know what I mean? I don't think that if Ayushmann does a shitty script, a bad script, I wonder if it will work in the same way. It might. You never know. Now maybe that, you know, someone within the industry told me a very interesting thing, that star wo hota hai, jo, excuse the language, tatti film bhi kare, lekin hit kar de usko. So that is a star. Where a film works, even if it's very bad, it works on the star's own appeal.
Pull, basically.
That is the kind of stardom that is the more traditional stardom. That's the kind of stardom that Shah Rukh sir has, Salman sir has, Akshay Kumar, I guess, has, and whoever else you see in that league. I can't comment on the 70s and 80s because I was not around at that time. But now I don't think we have. I think stardom has changed because audiences have become more aware, and because audiences are now exposed to better content, also international content. So they're not accepting rubbish. You know what I mean? So now, you know, and suddenly you see that the kind of films that even our traditional stars are doing. I mean, Akshay Kumar, who's built a career and a stardom on this action kind of formula film.
Khiladi number 1, Khiladi.
But I love, by the way, my favorite is Main Khiladi Tu Anadi. Oh my God, that is my favorite film ever. And like, Chura Ke Dil Mera, meaning I had a crush on Akshay Kumar for like some 4 or 5 years of my teenage because of Chura Ke Dil Mera. And all that jumping, and I like this guy who can jump so much. Like, I want this guy. like मेरा boyfriend ऐसा होना चाहिए,
ऐसा होना
ऐसे कूदना
चाहिए.
चाहिए. But so you see an Akshay Kumar who is a very traditional hero, and I think that Akshay sir is one of the people who's actually managed this transition beautifully. Who's suddenly doing Padman?
Right. Social awareness films, like
and
patriotism films, like.
I mean, the patriotism films, of course, is an obvious explanation at this time. But I think the more the other kind of films, the Padmans, the
Padmans,
and he has a whole lineup of them. Lakshmi Bomb.
Lakshmi
and,
Bomb.
You know,
so it's releasing this month, I think. Lakshmi Bomb.
Yeah. So I think that, you know, when you actually look at these things as larger issues and as structural things, as opposed to individual villainy of these horrible nepotistic Bollywood insiders and, you know, ha ha ha, blah blah. I mean, which is of course a far more sensational way to look at it. But I don't know how helpful that actually is. So I actually think that we're sitting at the cusp of some very interesting changes in films.
I absolutely agree. And then, like, I mean, because of COVID, unfortunately, I genuinely feel a lot of things are getting fast forwarded. Like, for instance, I think this OTT explosion, which would have happened over a period of 2 years, is now happening in like 3 months. Like, all these big budget films are now going to like OTTs. It's crazy. Like, I saw Gulabo Sitabo, and I was like, this is a movie I would have definitely seen on theater, but I'm so happy it came on OTT, right? Again, it's one of those Ayushmann and Amitabh Bachchan movies, which are so different. Like, the story-wise, they are not stars. It's not very star-centric again, but the story just carries it forward. It's beautifully done. I absolutely get where you're coming from.
I think Amitabh sir is also a very, very interesting example. And I mean, for him, it's actually a career that's spanning, like, I don't know, what, 40 years? 30 years? 40 years, I'd say, right? 50,
more
40
than that,
years.
I think now. 50 years, I think. Yeah. Like, I think so. We'll check.
So I think that, I mean, look at this man. He has managed to basically ride the 70s, the 80s. He is transformed himself into a television host when cable TV and actually delivered to cable television its highest TRP rated show. He's changed. So in some sense, he's actually transformed television as well. Then he's gone on to coming back in films as a different character space, but commanding obviously the same kind of because he's Amitabh Bachchan, so obviously the same kind of stardom and legendary status. And so he's done a Pa, and he's experimented also with the new age stuff.
Yeah.
Chini Kam, Pa, whatever else that you've seen him in. And now he's also entered the OTT.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like, the range is insane, right? I absolutely understand. Like, I'm thinking of like those Bade Miyan, Chote Miyan type movies that he has done versus now a Gulabo Sitabo on Amazon.
That's a great film also. Bade Miyan, Chote Miyan is a classic. I'm sorry, I love that film.
I also enjoyed it, to be honest. So I'm not complaining. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about how there is this theory, and I don't know if it's true, but you can tell me, that whenever Bollywood stars or any stars speak out about political issues that do not agree with the current political dispensation, and I'm not talking about now, but it's like traditionally it has happened that Congress power में है तो उनके against बोला तो फिर उनको films नहीं मिलेंगी या फिर they'll be boycotted by a certain lobby, right? Not the Times Now kind of lobby, but like a genuine, like a group of people which are powerful in Bollywood. Do you think that happens? And also, if so, how do you break that? Is there a way to break that?
So I don't think, I think actually that this kind of targeted harassment is not something that we had seen before the current government. Like, this is a post-2014 phenomenon.
Okay.
For sure. Just like this kind of trolling and this kind of social media, cyberbullying, cyber harassment, social, the IT cells, the organized attacks, like that is a post-2013, I would say, phenomena. Similarly, this kind of what we see in Bollywood, the Congress government, in my memory of it, and also the reason I say this is because there are tweets to support this. They may, I think that everyone agrees that they may have been hugely corrupt and incompetent, especially perhaps UPA 2 towards the end of its tenure in terms of how they handle lots of things. But they didn't have a reputation for vindictive sort of targeting of dissenters.
Yeah.
And especially if they were high-profile dissenters, they left them alone. So, which is why you see now all these tweets of Anupam sir, of Akshay sir, of so many people complaining about fuel prices, fuel hikes from the 2010, 12, 11, 13 period,
Right.
which is when the Congress was in power.
Right.
And they were continuing to be stars. They were doing good work. They were doing that. I think that Bollywood, because it's ultimately a business, and no businessman wants to basically mess with the powers that be, because why would you just add risk? Plus, films have all kinds of governmental clearances. They have a very close relationship of patronage actually at one level with the government, because not patronage, but I mean it's institutionalized, but it's actually basically those are things that you can use to harass producers.
Right.
So you need clearances from censor board, animal welfare board, like all the levels of permission you need. Then of course in India there's this nonsense of vigilante violence. I think the one very bad example that the Congress government had set was this whole business of banning films, without whenever there was a controversy. These easy bans of films. So producers are actually quite vulnerable. So I actually understand the need to keep the government on your side and not mess with the government. I think what is rare, or what has happened in the last 6 years or 7 years, 8 years, is this fear. So it's almost as if the government doesn't even need to say anything, but it's almost a
self-censorship.
Self-censorship, self-born fear. No, you can't say anything about the government.
Right.
So we don't even wait anymore for the government to do something. That fear is only so much of the punishment,
the backlash, the kinds of backlash that will happen. Yeah.
But again, what I'm saying to you is that is the reason for that is because that fear exists in our society now.
Right.
Because Bollywood basically is a small part of a larger society. It mirrors what is happening. It mirrors the dominant discourse. It mirrors the dominant mentality. The fact is that Indians today think 3 times before criticizing the government. That's a simple fact.
And basically Bollywood is just a reflection of that general fear. Absolutely.
Bollywood is simply just reflecting that. And a lot of, I would actually say that a lot of the I don't know how many people in Bollywood necessarily believe, for example, in the Hindutva ideology. I don't know.
Business chalana hai to kuch na kuch to karna hi padega bhaiya. Like we have to, and that is one of the reasons why I keep saying as well that the systems are broken. And to function in a broken system, you need some element of access and personal contact and whatever.
Yeah.
So
if
you mess with that, then you're just dead as a businessman.
Yeah.
I mean that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the and of course, like I actually wouldn't lay the entire blame on the BJP government either, because as I said that this this business of banning films, of not checking vigilante violence, this is something that actually the Congress also sort of didn't pay attention to, because they just thought that films are not important enough. At least to BJP's credit, I will say that this is the first government that has realized the power of Hindi cinema and has used it to its advantage in ways that we have not ever seen before. I mean, would you have imagined that a film like Uri would have received the kind of governmental backing? Because basically the government realized that this is great marketing for us.
Absolutely.
I mean, historicals in Bollywood have become like mouthpieces for the RSS rewriting history project. I mean, bizarre historicals are being made. Bizarre. They're like actually fantasy films.
Yeah.
They have nothing to do with history.
Yeah.
Like, random characters are coming up that, I don't even know, I mean, historians must be like dying when they're watching these films.
Or if they're actually watching these films, they're like, नहीं देखना है, नहीं देखना ही नहीं है.
नहीं, but लोग देख रहे हैं, लोग देख के बोल रहे हैं, हमने हिस्ट्री इस फिल्म से सीखा, हम like भाई वो सारा गलत है, वो बिल्कुल सही नहीं है.
You know what you should do to read history? You should watch this. Yes.
Listen, you give me a copy of this, okay? I don't have a copy.
I am not giving this to you. This is the only copy I could find, okay? Even if you're Swara Bhaskar who hosted this, I'm not parting with this wonderful little thing, okay?
This is amazing.
But yeah, thank you so much for doing this, Swara. I know you have to go. And this was a wonderful conversation. It was so nice to sort of talk about these things in a nice and open way. And of course, like you will get hate and trolling and whatever as usual. So
Thanks, Meghna.
because
Thanks for
like,
adding.
that's just what happens. That's what happens. Even if I didn't speak about Twitter on this interview, you know that
Yeah,
things
they'll
will happen.
find it.
They'll
They'll
find it.
They'll find me.
Just like they discovered the vibrator, things will be discovered in this interview as
Just
well.
like they discovered me calling a 4-year-old fictitious child a just like that.
That's true. That's true. It was so bizarre.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for watching this interview with Swara Bhaskar. Of course, this is behind the paywall. So if you want to watch the full wonderful interview with Swara Bhaskar, please subscribe to News Laundry and pay to keep news free, right? Because when the public pays, the public is served. And when advertisers pay, advertisers serve, right? And Swara Bhaskar, do you have anything to say about media and subscription?
I think that I just want everyone to know that I'm also a News Laundry subscriber. So yeah.
तुम पूरा इंटरव्यू देखोगे पेवॉल के पीछे like amazing.
And Gauri is here to say bye as well. Gauri say
Hi.
bye.
Also bye.
Also hi.
But thank you so much, Swara, for doing this. And
Thank you. Thank you. It was such a pleasure.